Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, I love Mountain House meals. I love nutrient survival meals. However, I don't feel that it is at the best interest of newer preppers or preppers who don't have a full pantry to be purchasing these meals. So let me explain. Freeze-dried meals are great. They're easy to prepare and they last up to 30 plus years. Although I feel that there is a place for third-party freeze-dried meals in a prepper's pantry, I am directing this video to those of you who do not have a full pantry of all of those things that you eat on a regular basis. Now, I understand that freeze-dried meals tend to be a bit expensive due to the time and energy that is required to produce them in quantity, and I feel that I have a better solution for those of you who are on a budget. Learn to cook, ladies and gentlemen. Rice and beans are a prepping staple when it comes to calories, so learn to prepare those things in different ways. This number 10 can of rice and chicken cost me about $22. This is what 2 servings, 500 calories worth, looks like, and these 2 servings come at a price of $4.89. It tastes good, and to have a few cans of this in order to reduce your stress level during the beginning of a crisis is fine, because all you have to worry about is getting some hot water in order to prepare it. And in a worst case scenario, you can also add cold water to it and allow it to rehydrate prior to eating it. Although it would not be as palatable eating it this way. I know you like stories, so let me tell you a story. My mother-in-law regularly calls my wife and asks her to tell me to do more cooking videos because she really likes to watch my cooking videos. So in order to honor my mother-in-law, darling, and hopefully project onto her from 4,000 miles away how much I love her, I am going to publish a video every day showing you how to use your rice for 5 different meals and how much less expensive it is than buying freeze-dried foods. So mother-in-law, don't blame me if you gain weight after trying all of these dishes because you asked for it. Again, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I am a big proponent of freeze-dried meals, but I feel that many new preppers concentrate on the more expensive things first because they think it's better. That couldn't be further from the truth because the pork adobo and rice that I'm going to cook for you during this video is not only easy to make, but a lot more tastier and a lot cheaper than buying from a third party. Let's start with how you make some basic white rice. Today we are going to cook 3 cups of long grain dry rice, and it will be enough to make 3 separate rice dishes for 4 people. All you have to do is place whatever rice you did not use for this dish in the refrigerator and then use it again tomorrow and the day after. Rice will stay good in the fridge for a good week. After you add the rice to the pan, add a teaspoon of salt, about 3 tablespoons of a flavor neutral oil, and 5.5 cups of water. Turn the burner on high, stir, and cover until it comes to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, stir again and then place the pan on the smallest burner set to the lowest setting. Set your timer for 30 minutes, and for goodness sakes, ladies and gentlemen, please don't get curious halfway through and lift the lid off the pan. While the rice is cooking, we are going to prepare half a cup of freeze-dried corn and peas, along with 2 tablespoons of dehydrated peppers and celery. I'm also going to use half of a large onion for this dish. If you wish, you can use dehydrated onions. However, since I already have a fresh onion, I will be using this one today. Our rice is done, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look and see how it turned out. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what you're looking for. Nice, fluffy rice, not too dry, not too wet. This is just right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the ingredients that we're going to need for this pork adobo that we're going to put over our rice today are going to be, in addition to the onion and the other veggies that we got from our dehydrated Oxen Farms cans or dehydrated and freeze-dried, we're going to need some black pepper. We're going to need some garlic powder right there. We're going to need a little bit of oyster sauce, about 1 tablespoon. And I don't have it out here because it's a really big bottle. We're also going to need some soy sauce, probably about 2 to 3 ounces of soy sauce. The pork that I'm going to use today is not this canned pork. I'm just showing you what I would normally use. Yesterday I did a batch of canned pork, and this is one of the jars. However, I had some pork left over that I could not fit in that batch. So instead of actually using canned pork today, which is what you would normally use out of your pantry, I'm going to use fresh pork that I had left over from the batch that I canned yesterday. All right, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, before we start anything, is we're going to go ahead and add all of our freeze-dried and dehydrated veggies to a pot or a pan. Try not to make a mess like I just did. And then we're just going to go ahead and add about 2 or 3 cups of water to it, just enough to get it covered. And then we're going to simmer it for a few minutes, long enough to reconstitute those veggies. All right, let's check and see how our veggies are doing. Well, it looks like the water got up to almost boiling. Let's go ahead and turn this off. Now we're going to go ahead and set this to the side and let it continue to hydrate. And while that hydrates, we're going to go ahead and start working on our pork. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this pork is the leftover pork that I had after I did my canning session yesterday. And what I did is I just did a very light marinade overnight. It has some bitter orange, a little bit of salt, very little bit of salt, and some black pepper. That's all it's got in there. All right, so it's very simple for you to recreate this without me showing you what I put in there. It's got a little bit of bitter orange. If you can't get bitter orange where you're at, or you don't want to order from Amazon, you can always substitute lemon juice and not put bitter orange in there. But other than that, it's just got some black pepper and a little bit of salt, and that's it. So the first thing we're going to do before we get our pork cooking is, as you can see, I went and cut up my onion. This is half of that onion that I showed you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of oil to our pot. Then we're going to go ahead and caramelize these onions before we add the pork to it. So what we're going to do first is we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of sesame seed oil. And we're going to bring this up to heat before we go ahead and add our onions to it. Now that it's nice and hot, we're going to go ahead and add our onions. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So now that our onions are looking pretty good, what we're going to do now is we're going to add our pork to this, and we're going to add some of the spices that we have out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, recognize that I'm using fresh pork, right, that hasn't been cooked yet. So it's going to take longer for me to cook it this way than it would for you if you were using already pressure canned pork. If you're already using pressure canned pork, it's only going to take you probably about 10 minutes to get this dish from this point to where it's done. Since I'm using fresh pork, it's obviously going to take a little longer because I'm going to cook my pork for a good while in order to make sure that it comes out tender. All right, so just recognize that. I'm showing you this so that you know how easy it is to make a very inexpensive meal with the preps that you have put away already. Showing you especially how you can take your rice and combine it with several different meals. That way you don't get tired of eating rice every day. It'll be a brand new meal every day. Or you can have rice maybe every other day. So now let's go ahead and put our temperature up. And we're going to put our pork in there. And look at that. That's perfect the way it looks right there. We're going to put our pork in there. There we go. And we're just going to stir this around. We're going to put in a couple of basic seasonings. A little more black pepper. And just a little bit of garlic powder. There you go. We'll stir this around and bring the heat down to low. And I will be back when this pork has pretty much cooked and we have to go to our next step. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so check that out. While that's finishing up there, I've got it on high heat right now. I'm going to put the lid back on it for a minute or two, whatever it takes me to get the soy sauce, oyster sauce, and I have 1.5 cups of water ready. We're going to go ahead and lower our heat. That way it won't be splashing on us. Put the lid to the side over here for a second. We're going to add roughly 2 ounces of soy sauce. And now we're going to add roughly 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the more is not better with oyster sauce. All right, so don't go overboard. 1 tablespoon is plenty for this, and it gives it that authentic taste. This is more of an Asian type adobo, so something that you would find like in the Philippines, because it's got that Asian background flavor with the soy sauce and the oyster sauce. And to tell you the truth, I like this version of adobo better than the Hispanic version because I really like Asian type foods. Now that we have the soy sauce and the oyster sauce in there, we're going to get our heat back up. We're going to put in 1.5 cups of water. We're going to go ahead and drain our vegetables and put them in there as well. So I'll be right back with those. Now, as you can see, these came out very nice. Look how pretty that looks. We're just going to go ahead and dump this in here. We're going to give it a nice stir and wait for it to come up to a boil. Look at how pretty that looks, ladies and gentlemen. We will wait for this to come up to a boil, and then we're going to cover it and let it simmer for a couple of hours. Now, like I said, the only reason I'm letting this simmer for a couple of hours is because I started out with raw meat. If you're using canned meat that you pressure canned, or even meat that you bought at the store in a can, this process right here, from the time that it starts to boil and then you let it simmer, would be maybe like 10 to 15 minutes at the most. In this case, I want my pork to come out nice and tender, so I'm going to let it simmer a while longer. And we will be back when this is done, and I'm going to show you exactly how much food this makes and how much it costs to make it. We are only going to use 1/3 of the rice that's in here, meaning that we're only going to use the equivalent of 1 dry cup of rice. Because if you remember, we put 3 dry cups of rice in here to begin with. So 1/3 of this equals 1 dry cup of rice, and that 1/3 combined with our adobo is going to be enough to feed a family of 4 one good meal. Instead of spending all that money on freeze-dried foods, you can make your own, ladies and gentlemen. And not only that, it's delicious. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is done, and it looks delicious. Let's go ahead and plate this and see what it tastes like. And look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Now that looks delicious. Look at this. And wait until I tell you how much this meal costs. And after I taste it, I'm going to show you just how much rice and adobo there's left. So you'll see that this can actually feed a family of 4 for 3 days when you mix up what you do with your rice and add a protein or a vegetable to it. All right, let's give this a taste test. Look at that. Doesn't that just look delicious? And I do believe that the pork is nice and tender. See that? Got all your veggies in there. Let's just go ahead and taste a little bit of the rice with just veggies. Look at that. Not touting my own horn, ladies and gentlemen, but this came out perfect. Let's try a little bit of that pork. No complaints there, ladies and gentlemen. No complaints whatsoever. This is going to be an excellent lunch for myself today. Now let me go ahead and show you everything that's left. That way you'll see exactly how much food we still have left. And I'm going to tell you what all of this food cost us. Now look at how much food we have left, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to show you. we have plenty of food for 3 more servings and plenty of rice for 3 more servings, just like the one I showed you on the plate. And then whatever rice is left over, you put in the fridge and you save it for tomorrow's dish. And tomorrow, I hope you join me, because tomorrow I'm going to be making another rice dish with what's left over of this rice. Now, going over the AP math on this meal, this is what I came up with. We used 3 cups of rice. A 50-pound bag of long grain rice is about $27. So 3 cups of rice came out to 65 cents. However, remember, we're only using 1 cup of dry rice for this meal. So it's really something like 20 cents. We used about 1.5 pounds of pork. I bought that pork for about $1.49 or something like that. So I put $2 for the pork. 65 cents for the freeze-dried corn. 78 cents for the freeze-dried peas. About 41 cents for both the dehydrated peppers and celery. And I figured about 50 cents for the spices, the soy sauce, and the oyster sauce. Ladies and gentlemen, that comes out to less than $4.89, which is what 2 servings of that Mountain House meal cost if you bought it over the counter. So in order to make this whole meal for 4 people, ladies and gentlemen, not 2 servings, but for 4 servings, it came out to about $4.74. Now, if you already had your pork ready, already pressure canned in your pantry, then you're good to go. This meal would have taken you a lot less time to make because I made it with raw meat, and it still would have cost you just as much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I call good math. If you can feed an entire meal to a family of 4 for less than $5, and not only an entire meal, but a good meal at that, before you buy long-term food storage from a third party, consider learning how to cook your own meals. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to do another rice dish in honor of my mother-in-law, and I'm going to continue to do it for the next 4 days. So on top of this one, we've got 4 more to go. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I'm out.